All right, guys, we're gonna have a little video, but then we're gonna get into having 5 of our people that were panelists or attended the Explosion event to do their top takeaways. Who saw the little entrance to Explosion? We wanted to create some energy, and I think we did. They all said they'd never been to a real estate conference. I had a number of people around the country saying, I think you should be doing the kickoffs for Berkshire Hathaway. I says, they wouldn't spend the money I'd want them to spend to do these type of things. They're too cheap. So we don't tell them what we're doing, we just do it. Guys, let's have our quick little video here, Maggie, if we can, and then we're gonna get our panel up here and get some great ideas from them. We almost should have showed some of the video of him doing the Ironman. I watched a special on him, but he ran an Ironman, and you know, he wanted to quit a big part of this, but his dad just kept pushing him and pushing him and pushing him, and that's what he said, you know, how did I do this? How can someone with Down syndrome do this? He said, it was just, I had to take little baby steps, right? It's just every single day I had to get 1% better. I didn't have to do great things, but I had to do little things continually to get there. And he always talked, and especially kept talking about he had to overcome his pain. And so it was really a cool thing to see him run that thing. So if you get a chance to watch any of the videos of him doing the Ironman, it's worth your time. Have some Kleenex around because it's a very cool story. So guys, Explosion, thank you for being great host and so gracious. I hope everybody, when we do these, it has a sense of pride of that we're something bigger than ourselves. That it's very cool to me that when I see people come around the country, they're like, oh my God, I've just never seen anything like this in the real estate world. And that's because all of us together, it's the energy created, it's the space, it's a combination of all those things. Gino was going to put out yesterday, I don't know if he did, his father passed away at age 96. We need to get something out to, we need to get something out to everyone on that. A little thing on leadership that he was going to quote us on. And I told him, he says, what's the one word that you feel is most important from your leadership style? And I said, it's collaboration. And Gina said, I was going to say the same thing. And then I went on to say, you know, it's really through the attitude of abundance. It is everybody understanding and having the expectation. If someone goes to Megan and says, hey, can I have 20, 30 minutes of your time? She takes time to help them. But that attitude of abundance is every one of us openly sharing what we're doing, how we're doing it, what works, what doesn't work, how do we get where we are today, right? Embracing risk, learning from the past, and understanding that when we all share, we all improve, we all get better in that process, and that the best is yet ahead. So I really do believe that collaboration, the idea sharing, that when we do that, and so many, and I will tell you, the vast majority of top agents I've met around the country and the vast majority of organizations don't do masterminds. They're like, the first question I get when I consult with companies around the country is, well, you know, my agents compete against each other. They're not going to share what they do with someone else in their same office or the same market because they can compete on the same listing. I'm like, not very often, first of all. And I said, second of all, if they do, they're going to win some, they're going to lose some, but everybody in that process that's participating, that's collaborating with each other improves. And so that's a big part of what we're going to do today. If I could have my panelists start coming up here. And what we want to do always within this organization, there is always the expectation that we help each other, we share with each other. And when a top producer shares with a younger person, I love because the younger person is asking questions. It forces you guys to rethink. Come on up, LP. It forces everybody to rethink. I'll go to the other side. It makes you, you know, I've told top producers, I said, one is I think you're going to feel better because you're helping somebody that needs help. And if someone's coming to you, they need help and they have a desire to get better. But hopefully they're also going to, can Megan get up there? Lower the seat, guys, lower the seat. I told you we need high people and short people chairs. What the, Gina, come on, just because you're getting married, you're losing it. See, Gina came around and she sat on all of them, she says, oh, they're good. So I felt that this was, Megan, you've probably been to every one of these I think we've had, right? All 5 of these? I felt this was the best one that we've had in regards to the idea sharing. We had some incredible people here. Kelly out of St. Louis, 6 people on her team did, what was the number? 750 transactions last year. A 34-year-old out of Baltimore just has started kicking a team off, and they're doing, I think, 350 deals or 400 deals. His goal is 1,000 in the next couple of years. So it was just crazy to listen to all these people from all these other parts of the country. Some of them having the most simple ideas and some of them having systems in place. But here's the one thing that I felt, my takeaway that I didn't say at the end that I wish I would have, and then I'm gonna dive into this for you guys to give us your top takeaways. The one common thing amongst all of them was not that they were doing complicated deals. It was they all had a discipline to daily do something that was helping them continue to be productive and grow their business. They all created great habits, consistently doing something on a regular basis that was helping them grow their business. And that was it. It wasn't that, because some of them gave the simplest ideas that these guys are gonna share with you that were things that can be implemented as you guys walk out of the room here today. So Mike, and I've asked each one of these guys to come up with 5 to 7 of their top takeaways, because I felt there were so many ideas to share in this event. So Mike, I'm gonna start with you. Give me a couple of takeaways. Was I guess each one of you, was there one panelist or one speaker throughout the process that you really felt was the best person that you gained the most out of?
Not necessarily. There were several that stood out and I think everyone gave something good. I mean, I think there was a reason that everyone was up on those panels. And, you know, my probably top takeaway was kind of to be creative. I like the consistency, and everyone is successful for a different reason.
What was a couple of your top takeaways?
Well, there's quite a few.
Don't give them all now, because I'm coming back to you.
Okay. I like well, I'll start with Mark Stark. Like being consistent, I've always believed in that. I like the planning forward part of that. I also like, you know, take responsibility. Like I always try to tell people is, you know, don't complain unless you're going to do something about it. So come up with a plan.
And just so you know, Mark Stark is, many of you know, I had him come and speak, oh my God, 15 years ago to our organization, but he's the broker in Vegas, Arizona, and California. All of these are, I'm looking at Maggie as I make this comment, they've all of those general sessions and all of our guest speakers were recorded, and we hope to have those by the end of this week. We'll get all of these out to you guys, so you guys can go back and review. We'll break out each one of the panelists and say, here's the panelists on there. You can look at each one of those. I would spend some time over the next month going back and looking at these, because I think it's impossible if you sit down and pay attention not to gain some things from that. Lori, was there 1 or 2 people that stood out to you that you really took the most away from? And then what was a couple of your top takeaways?
I've listened to Jake a couple times. He's been here, I think the last time I was
Brain
here.
out of Utah.
And he does a lot of mental, which we all, I think, can need help with.
Right, and so it was crazy. We screwed up on that, by the way. We kept in a group in here, and he had half of the entire attendance up in one of the breakout sessions, and we should have had him down here. We knew mental illness was a real thing, but when Jake came and spoke and they all started running upstairs, I'm like, we maybe need to pay more attention to it.
It's a real, and I think he does have a link. That would be good. I'm sure Maggie I can give it to you, just for his presentation. But his big thing was smile. Like if you smile, it sometimes makes people uncomfortable, but then they will probably smile back. And another big thing was we can only, only today is what we can control. So just control today. I think my other big one was Mark. He
Mark
was
Stark.
saying, yeah, he was saying process over price. So that's a big thing. Right now we're competing and everyone says, oh, well, so-and-so said I could sell it for this much more. Well, the big thing is you're going to sell your house for more money than you probably thought you were if it was last month, 6 months ago. But let's talk about the process. We're going to get you to the end.
And he was talking about, right, he gave a deeper example saying that people come in and say, the agents are saying, well, your house is going to sell for this. Yeah. And then so they lost the listing and the house ended up selling for more than they said it was going to. So right now it's got to be, what's the process? How are you going to attract buyers and activity? And what's the process? That's going to help you get the highest price versus trying to nail the price, because are any of us good enough in this crazy market to even know what the price is going to be?
Right. Talking a lot about equity and stuff. So yeah.
Perfect. Ryan.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I'll speak on, but I think Mark, again, one of the biggest things that stood out to me is he talked about clarity and just you need to be clear in your vision, and you need to be clear in where you're going to be going. And so he gave like 3 questions to kind of ask yourself. And he's like, you need to be asking yourself these questions like all the time. And the first question was, who am I? And when you're defining that, like, it's probably going to change here and there as far as like what you're doing, because maybe who you are today is going to be someone that you're different 2 or 3 years down the road. And then he talked about the next question was, what do I want? You know, and so being clear on what you want and being clear on how you're going to get there then, as far as achieving some of those things. And then the third thing that kind of goes along with that was, what am I willing to sacrifice in order to get to those things that I want? And I think that really spoke to me, not only just as I'm trying to plan and think about like my team and where I want to go, but even just last month, like this actually funneled into like our marriage, because my wife got an email from the med center that was like, if you don't get vaccinated by October 22nd, you're going to be terminated. And she's like, I'm not getting the vaccine, so I'm walking away. And so we had that whole conversation as far as, okay, now what does that look like for not only us and our marriage and moving forward? Right. So it literally changed.
You don't need any business consultant to help you on this one.
Right. It literally changed overnight as far as like, well, now what I want and the vision of my team is going to look completely different, because now I've got to make up. And she's constantly like, well, that's $100,000 we need to like make up every year now. And I'm like, it's fine, we'll figure it out. Like, but then it opened up the conversation with her, is when I asked her, I was just like, well, what do you want now? Like, if you're done potentially doing medicine, what is it that you want to do? You know, and like we had that conversation as far as like, well, I would love to open a coffee shop, or I'd love to do some of these other things. And so having Mark speak not only to like me and our business and real estate, it was like, yeah, this is something I can use in my marriage. Like now I'm having this conversation with my wife as far as, what do you want and what are we going to sacrifice in order to make that happen? And so that was probably the biggest takeaway, because it not only applied to me and my marriage, but also in my business.
That's the one thing. So is Mark the person that, it sounds like Mark's the one that you felt was the person that you had the most takeaways from.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I've always said, is that if you're great in sports or do things really well in your personal life, there's parallels, right? The things that work in one aspect of your life also works in other aspects of your life. So if there's things you've learned from sports, if things you've learned that's helped you have better relationships in your personal life, apply those exact same principles to business and vice versa.
Yeah, I think what I liked the most about like Explosion in general is the differences of all of the speakers and all of the sessions. I don't know that I could pick one necessarily. Mark's was probably my favorite mindset session, but he didn't necessarily give the tactical "what do I do today" type things. You had that in other sessions. So the consistency and the clarity, I think, were two of my top takeaways for sure, and I'd echo what was said there. When it came to tools that agents could use and talking about, okay, how do you make your clients feel special? What does that actually mean? And slowing yourself down and slowing your brain down and actually taking an hour, 1 full hour, like 60 whole minutes to actually just make a list of how do I make a client feel special? And then all of the ideas that could come out of this of, well, am I willing to do pop buys? And then what type of pop buys? What does that look like? Do I have clients come to me and pick up a pie? Do I go to them and bring them something? Which holidays do I use as an excuse? All of those, what am I willing to do type conversations and questions you start asking yourself. And then the mentality conversations that we had in multiple sessions bled on top of each other, and there were even these little breakout conversations of some people were like, well, yeah, I always thought the next step for me was to then start a team. And it all boiled back to the reason of, well, why? Are you sure? What do you actually want? Like, if you enjoy the servicing and the caregiving of clients and you like doing that and the depth and the time, well, if you're going to add running processes and developing systems on top of your life, is that actually what you enjoy doing? Or will that feel just terrible? And will you be absolutely exhausted doing this new venture that you decided to double blend? So it really forces everyone to revisit the questions of why you're doing what you're doing. And then if you're an agent, like, well, do you want to sell 80 transactions a year? And do you have any help to do it? Or are you able to delegate? Or what have other people done to delegate that allows you to be that perfectionistic control freak? Nothing wrong with it, like I get that, but you can build in systems that are possible to let help happen the way that you need and expect it to be, and then you can actually have some life and sell your 80 homes a year. So I think there was, sessions on every single thing, whether it was an agent wanting to sell like crazy, have an assistant, have some help, somebody that wanted to be part of a team and tie into infrastructure from a brokerage that provides a lot of tools, or a team that provides a lot of tools, or somebody that wanted to run a brokerage, run an organization. Every single one of those pieces was in different sessions. So I could take from every single piece of that and get, all kinds of stuff, and I'll share more.
Megan.
I really liked Jake a lot. I think at these conferences.
He probably had chairs you could sit in his room.
Maybe funny. I think at these conferences, you have to kind of take a step back and understand, like, what are your goals at this conference? Is it your goal to grow your business? Is it your goal to do systems? Is it your goal to find work-life balance? And figure out why you're at this conference. Is it just to hear everything and then take it back and do nothing? So I think the most important thing is to figure out, like, what's most important from you and what do you want to implement in your business. So the two things I took away primarily were implementation. One of the things that Jake said was he knows this really great lender, and they're not a really great lender, but they're a really great implementer. So he'll go back from a conference or whatever and take two things and implement them right away. And I think that's the challenge in all of these conferences, is that there's so much, and then you get overwhelmed and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do anything because I'm so overwhelmed, and then you get busy with day to day. So pick one or two or three things and implement those things right away, or plan for next year or whatever. So that was one of the big takeaways. And then balance. He said that he is more successful in his business and his life and his real estate career when he has balance, and when he's centered and does his morning routine and does his nighttime routine. Everything else succeeds on a greater level than if he feels out of whack with not exercising or whatever it might be for you to feel balanced.
And Jake really, truly lives that. I mean, and I'm going to keep it with Megan, and I'm going to run back down this way, but he really does understand balance, right? And that when he's physically fit and mentally fit, that he's more productive in all the aspects. So what's two action items that you're going to take and implement? What's a couple of things that you heard that you're going to go back and implement in your business here over the next? And that's what Megan said, is what we told everyone at the conference. We'll tell you guys today. You could hear 8, 10 ideas that you're like, oh wow, that could help me grow my business. Don't go try to implement 10 ideas. Figure out what are the 1 or 2. Write down all 10 ideas. But after you implement the 1 or 2, then go back and implement a third one and a fourth one, and keep going back down that list. But only do them 1 or 2 at a time. So a couple things you're going to implement.
The two things I'm going to implement are, one is a QR code for flyers, postcards, all that stuff.
So Chuck talked about that. Can you expand exactly how that works?
Not 100% sure about it,
I'm gonna be
you can
calling
do
Chuck.
you can do it on Canva. I think Jay knows how to do it. So on listing,
Jay's down on the first floor.
Yeah. If you ask Kylie, she's just did one for me, so she'll know how to do that. And then the second thing I think probably is the social proof idea. So basically, like, sending a magnet to everybody who can see your sign when you list a property that says "Save this" to remind you that I'm your neighborhood expert. Just like 10 of them or something down the street. So I'm going to do that. And then
Who spoke on that?
I can't remember. I think Mark Brace.
Mark Brace.
I'm pretty sure.
I think you're right.
And then getting a nighttime routine.
Perfect. Same thing, at least two things you're gonna implement, action items that you're gonna take or you're gonna have the team take.
Yep. So one of the things that we're going to do is get everyone together on the team that wants to, and we're going to talk about what does we put a lot of focus a few years ago into the buyer experience and what does that look like and how's happy closing day and all of that. And we have some of the listing experience in there, but what I want to do is get a group together and have everybody design, okay, let's be ridiculous. Let's go off the charts. Let's time's no object and money's no object. What would the most amazing and perfect listing experience work from the time you have your first phone call to the actual meeting, the setting, to the staging and stagers? What does that look like end to end? And then we'll look at what pieces can we systematize and what actually then fits, and actually designing this just off the charts experience for sellers. One of the sessions talked about going into a listing and talking to a seller and telling them, oh yeah, I'm going to keep you updated on your property. I mean, all of these status quos that are not why you're above and beyond. It's all of the expected, like, yeah, okay, great, you're going to keep me updated on my property. Duh, of course you are. And we're going to market it. Duh. It's a syndicated. You're not even doing anything really. So it's taking away that the trying to explain why you're valuable with these status quo items, and instead, how do you, borderline freak somebody out with, I could not do your job. This is outrageous. Showing videos, just end to end. So we're going to design that listing experience and that seller experience. And then one of the other things too is actually, go ahead.
And because I want you guys to write down, because when we put these out, we're gonna say, here are the people on the panels, but I think Mark Stark was talking about, oh, wow, you're going to work hard. I didn't expect that. Oh, wow, you're going to market my property. Oh, and I'm sure none of the other agents are going to do that, right? It was like poking fun, like we go and say stupid little things. Yeah. That would be the expectation. I wouldn't even be having you sitting here giving me a listing presentation unless I expect you to do these minimum things. So,
right.
So when I tell you that was Chuck on the QR codes or Mark on that, write those down and go back and watch that panel or that session because we'll have these broken out separately.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the first one. The next one, it was actually your session. So one of the things that we did as a team really, really well is we built culture. We built a tight group of got each other's back. People cutting each other.
That's because you take trips to Mexico.
I'm not above cheating. All right, smarter, not harder, man. So, we really did. We ended up becoming friends, and we really bound. And I hear stories, and people are cutting each other in on commission checks and percentages because they happen to work an open house together, and one of them talked to somebody, but then the other one actually ran the whole thing through, and I had nothing to do with any of it. And it's amazing to me the tight group that we've become, and I knew we needed to do that, and I wanted that. I wanted everybody to have the sense of belonging. I wanted them to know that that they were part of something. There was no condemnation, and that's good. And then earlier this year, we rolled out a mentoring program, and it was just birthed. And then as Vince started talking about blending culture and coaching, it really built that vision in my head of what we've really focused on culture, and we've had coaching and a lot of tools and a lot of teaching, and I have training libraries and great, but now to actually some of that, if you want to play at this level, now I'm gonna just tell you straight up what some of the harder pills to swallow are. And having other people on the team jump in and share that same, here's our high performance level type coaching and culture together, now that we've developed a pretty decent culture.
2 action items you're going to take.
Jeez, how do you follow that?
Outside of making more money to cover for your wife's
Yeah, exactly.
lack of income.
Exactly.
Take it to Mexico.
There we go. That'll do it.
You're welcome.
So I think it was Mark that talked about this too. Him and I have a similar, I think, perspective on just running a team, and to him, it's really important to invest in his agents. And
So Mark Brace.
yeah.
Okay.
So Cass can hold me accountable to this. My assistant, she's in here. But I think he just talked about like he wants, or he tries to do like a one-on-one breakfast every month with his agents, and he's like, honestly, like it's not always talking about business, it's talking about life and how are things going at home, and what are you being challenged with right now, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's really important to me too, like as far as like you want somebody to act like they care about you, you know. And as a team leader, like we should all be doing that. Like if you're not tapping into your agents on a one-on-one basis, like you are probably failing as a leader. And so that just kind of like hit home for me to be like, I've tried to do like, and we've been doing like one-on-ones, but it hasn't been as consistent as like once a month. And so add that to the list, Cass, to put that on my calendar. And then I would say like the other thing that probably stood out for me actually came from Molly Slagle. So I'm with her on the Rethink Council, and we have a great friendship. And she actually called me like after, and she sent me a video like after she got back home, and she's like, "You've been really on my heart, my mind, and I just wanted to share this with you." And it actually brought me to tears as I was like watching her video. But she was like, "I sometimes think that you don't give yourself enough credibility for like how successful you are." And she's like, "I don't think you understand, because this is all you've grown up with in the real estate industry here at Berkshire, is that you are surrounded by thousands of successful agents." And she's like, "If you took your team and you placed that in any other city, like you'd be in the top 5 every single time." And that really like kind of hit home for me, because I'm like, I guess I've never really like thought about that before, but she's right. Like I think, what do we all do when we get like the list of like Q1, Q2, like here's everyone in volume and here's like team units and whatever, and you're always comparing yourself to like somebody on that list, right? Like we joke about this all the time. I'm like, I'm always trying to find Trevor's team and be
We
like,
know.
where
we know.
he's
People are like, why am I not on that list? Why am I not higher on that list? I don't think this is right. I mean, people care.
Yeah, and I think for me, like it made me stop and like again go back to my clarity statement that I was talking about earlier, as far as like, who cares what everybody else is doing? Like, what do I want, and what is our vision for our team and our culture? And as long as we're all happy doing that, who cares what Trevor does in his team? Like, who
cares? He's in,
and
Mexico.
I think
Aruba.
yeah, exactly. It's good. I think it's healthy to like, look at other people's success or whatever, but like for the longest time, like before I even started my team, like I was always looking at Megan, and I was like, man, I want to do stuff like Megan does. And then I remember having a conversation with her like in her office one night, and we were just sitting there talking, and she's like, I literally do this day in and day out every single day. Like, you're not gonna have time to go hang out with your friends on Friday night like you do, and like all this stuff. And it just made me think of like, well, if that's what I want, then here's everything that I would have to sacrifice, And so I think, again, it just reiterated that for me, like hearing that from her and understanding that, like, yeah, we do need to celebrate like where we're at as a team and what we're doing and where we're going and where we've come, and not get so caught up into like trying to catch somebody or trying to grow somebody, like a team, like somebody else or whatever, but just focusing on like what my goal is and what I want to do, and just that, and not, because I think you get depressed, I think you get frustrated, I think you like feel like a failure when you're like, well, shoot, I was hoping to do this or whatever. And I think there's more to it than just sitting back and trying to compete with somebody else.
I love that point that Ryan makes. And yeah, two things is, one is, to that point, is people are amazed how many productive people we have. I mean, there's really nowhere in the country that has as many people as productive as what we have here. And so you're comparing yourself to the best of the best. In my mind, use that as a sponge to learn from them, right back to the attitude of abundance and collaboration with each other. But I remember two different things. Where's Brian Thomas? Is he around here? I saw him walking around there. I don't know, as he gets closer to retirement, I see him less and less. I don't know what the hell's going on here. But I mean, Brian and I used to have that talk as we were growing. I mean, CBS was so much bigger than us. Dodge was so much bigger than us. And I'm like, I don't care what anyone else is doing. I don't care how much money they're making. I says, if they're making way more than this, they're making way less than this, they're going back, it doesn't matter to me. We've got to focus. I mean, and Brian and I had this conversation. We got to focus on what we're doing. And we can't worry about anybody else. And I've had this conversation with many agents over the years, but there was a couple agents that stuck in my head, and one just was always like focused on what another agent was doing. And I need to do what that agent is doing. And I'm like, you got to stop doing that. Focus on what you're doing, right? And be the best version of what you're doing. Improve the 1% a day and be the best version of what you're doing. It doesn't matter if they're making more than you or making less than you, if you're doing more business than them or doing less business. And what you find out, I think, in life is when you focus on what you're doing, use the other people, right? Use the other people as a learning experience. Be a sponge and learn from them. Sit down and talk to Megan and learn from Megan, and then figure out, based on my personality and what I'm trying to accomplish in my life, how do I get there? But it becomes, I found it becomes counterproductive to always figure out, I want to be that person, or I want to do what that person, or something like that. Learn from them and then figure out what's important to you. So I think that's a really, really important point there. So thank you. Lori.
Yeah, kind of with that. I've been doing this almost 20 years now, and I think every year.
Started at 12.
Right. Every year it's the same thing, like, oh my gosh, someone's doing this and I should be doing that. And finally, I think I've kind of been like, okay, it's what I've been doing is working. So go to these conferences, like Megan said, and just take a few things. There's so much coming at us, but do what works for you. And I think the big thing, the QR code, like Megan, I was like, oh yeah, I mean, that was kind of out a while ago, but now we all use it with restaurants and everything. So it's more commonplace. So I called my assistant right away. I'm like, hey, our postcard. She's like, yeah, I've been putting that on there. So that shows you I'm paying attention. But there's different things you can do with it. You can do videos and just different aspects. The big thing was going back to the basics. Everyone talked about, I mean, I did Brian Buffini years ago, and we started the pie events and just parties and all that stuff. And it's really come back to, everyone talked about it, how they all were like, oh, those pie events, that's stupid. And then they did it and they're like, wow, that's really cool. You know, those are great. So the simpler, the better sometimes, but just the touch to people. And it's the honor and the invite. Sometimes it's not how many people show up. It's that you reached out to them. They're always, you know, thankful that they were invited, even if sometimes they have guilt that they couldn't come. So it's even better because they feel they owe you more. But it's just, and it's getting back, like the farming, we used to all send like just solds, just listeds. That came up, like do that more. When you get a listing, send it out to the houses around, get your name in front of them. And again, it's just a little more back to the basics.
Mike.
Yeah, I think my top two things I implemented right away were really simple because I wanted to try to get as much out of it as possible. So one, I mean, there's things that we were already doing, but it wasn't on a consistent basis. So I tried to create a consistency right off the bat. I started blocking my schedule, made the mistake of having my assistant like, okay, block my schedule. And now I'm like, okay, a little too full. Let's kind of back off a little bit on that.
I think we've had this talk.
And then just being, being very clear with what I'm, even starting being clear with what I'm saying. I have a horrible habit of trying to think ahead, and sometimes I'll jump from one subject to the other without taking a pause. And so I've really been working with my team and my assistant, everybody, just being very clear what the message is, and even that has kind of helped tremendously. So
Perfect. I want to throw one little thing, and then I'm going to come back and talk about what are some other action items that others can take that maybe you'll do down the line. But I think I shared this earlier in the year with you guys. But Mark Brace, again, talking about the QR code and the QR code that can scan you to a house or to a website. Mark Brace does a simple text that he says is a killer. He says he's just got an obscene amount of business out of this, which is the market is bananas with the bananas icon. Do you want to know what your house is worth? And he gets, it opens up a conversation where people are texting back, and all of a sudden he's doing a market analysis and getting listings from that. And so that's the things, whether it's the QR code or the text, that's how simple the little things you can do to implement, right? It doesn't have to be a big process and system that you need to walk out of a conference with to say, I've got to put this whole system in place that could take a month or two to put in place, quite honestly. So, Mike, let's start with you. What's a couple other things that you took away that you thought were good things that were maybe things more down the road or not immediately things that you're going to take action on, but they're things that you don't want to forget and you want to keep somewhere to go back and revisit?
Well, the QR code was consistently coming up, so that's something I would like as well. Also, like Lori saying, like the pie events, like everyone comes up, like, you know, I never wanted to do it, and when I finally tried it, it's amazing. Video came up quite a few times too. I'd like to implement more video, you know, and just kind of trying to think what else.
And to those points, there's 2 points, either social media and video, because I felt like that came up a lot. But I also thought, to Lori's pie thing, is because they got away from doing client appreciation parties for about a year, is a lot of people talked about, I felt, getting connected, whether it's client appreciation parties or other type of things. So if anybody could expand on video, social media, or staying connected, whether it's client parties or other things like that through that process, I thought there was a number of people kind of talking about those type of things also. The younger generation, I will tell you, are basically think you're crazy if you're not utilizing video in some aspect of growing your business.
So they said they were doing, like, take a picture of they don't hand out business cards anymore. They had a picture, and after like a text or talking to someone new, they would text them their business card, so they had that. And then like a video of starting your process, showing unloading the truck for staging and what the house looked like before and then after. That's, you know, that's like the TV shows, but you can make it to your own and do, you know, and post that out there because people like to see that. Social media, they talked about like Instagram, right? Like you're writing to your mother, write it in detail and all fluff. And then like LinkedIn, right? Like you're writing to your father. Very basic. It sold for this, it sold in this many days for this much percentage over. That was kind of just the facts. The one thing that Mark said on the last day, he was talking about inventory, and he's like, there aren't less houses out there, people. I mean, we still see all the houses. Yes, we can talk about less inventory, but the houses are the same number of houses. So go get it, go find it. And that was more.
Because the houses are selling faster, but we're selling close to the same number of houses we've sold in the past.
Right, so quit talking about low inventory, because we were finding inventory.
Right, and that's what he said. He said, there's less houses?
Yeah.
He says, maybe in California where they're burning down. He says, why are there less houses? Oh, you mean there's less houses for sale, right? Mark was you've got to watch Mark Stark's 45 minutes was spectacular. So if there was a first takeaway, I would say go watch his 45 minutes and then go to some of the other
Or the
panels.
little things of your client, like a birthday. I know Ashley's good about that on our team, but sending a quick note, happy birthday, it goes a long way. So again, just some of those basic things that we get away from.
I think going back to just taking care of the client, like I think so many times, especially as you get so many different transactions going on, you know, you lose sight of touching base and reaching out. And there's been times where like I'll literally get a phone call like yesterday from one of my clients that's like, so like, where are we at with everything? Like, has the appraisal come back in? And I was like, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. Like, I'm gonna have to check. But like, just something small like that, even to just go back and be like, hey, we got the appraisal, or we're still waiting on the appraisal, or something like that. Making them feel valued throughout the entire transaction. Because I think a lot of times we get somebody under contract, or we get that under contract, and then it's like, all right, now somebody else can take it from here. And then it's just like we fail to go back. And so I think that goes into like, you know, I know Megan's really good at doing like your handwritten notes like every day. But I think even doing like the handwritten notes, it's just like having 5 people that you might follow up with that are in the middle of a transaction, that just to update them on where they're at and what's new and all that kind of stuff. And then I think too, like the client appreciation party stuff, just getting back on track with that. Like we had a great success with like a food truck and stuff that we did right out here, like at the office. We had over like 135 people come. And so I think people are itching to get out and want to get involved again and do stuff. And so now I think it's just being consistent with that, right? So like, okay, we did one in the spring, like let's get something here for the fall and maybe like in the wintertime. But just staying consistent with those things and giving yourself an excuse to like reach back out to someone and see that you haven't seen in a while. And that's.
Thank you.
I think if you're looking for action items, I would look at your database. So I don't care if your database is an Excel sheet with auto filters at the top, doesn't matter. Have a column that's your client type or your sphere category or something like that, that is your A pluses, your A's, whatever. One of the redefinitions that I got that I liked is to say, okay, my A pluses, it's anybody that has referred me 2 deals or more. So anybody that's an A plus in your database, knock them down a notch. It's not the people you like, it's not the people you want to hang out with, it's the people that have referred you 2 deals or more. To get into the A category, they've referred you 1, like passed. If they haven't, then they get to be a B. That's the top notch. They just can't even change the criteria. So go to update and change your database, and then you'll be able to see and clearly tell who should you stay in touch with. And then if you want to redefine the B's, great, just go through and redefine, okay, for business, what's the smart move? What's the smart categories? Where should everybody belong? And you may feel bad because you just put your best friend as a D. Some of my best friends are D's, but they, okay. Anyway, so, but redo your database. And then you'll be able to actually take items and you'll be able to go in weekly and run your filter on your database, and you can see who have you stayed in touch with and when, and make sure you touch the right people, and you'll have way more results. There's an 80-20 rule in like all things life. Great, put your time into the 20% of people that produce 80% of the results. But you have to be smart about it, and it doesn't have to be complex or hard. With regard to video, the Berkshire Conference, was it 4 years ago, San Antonio? That was the first one that I went to. And I ended up in about 4 different sessions that were titled uniquely, and I didn't realize they were all gonna be about video. And so I just got inundated with video, and I'd never done social media video. And I was terrified. I shook holding the phone, and it was blurry, and I couldn't do any of it. And I got to learn different platforms, and it was, you were still trying to figure out Instagram stories versus feeds, and there was no such thing as Reels or TikTok and all that. I mean, and I learned a few of the speakers, and then it became true for me too. I could not get myself to do video without shooting 30 and 40 takes, unless I did Facebook Live. Facebook Live sounds scarier on the front end, but it's a really weird, and you'll observe it in your own head, do it, and you're using a different part of your brain. It's super weird. You can feel the difference because you're not recording and rehearsing, and you're not thinking about what could you have said and what should you have said. You're just talking, and it's the conversational side. And so I started with only those. I had to. And once I did a few of those, it became really easy and really comfortable. And then I could pre-record. To this day, I still do multiple takes if I do a pre-recording. So, all right.
Waste of time.
I know. So if you just do a live, it's done. And so video, if you haven't done video, or if you're still struggling with that comfort or whatever, I'll tell you something else too. So one of the things that was said in one of the sessions is done is better than perfect.
Yes.
I'm a data guy, like I'm overanalyzer, I think strategy. Okay, but if you just get some mud on the wall, some of it does stick. So just take some action. The next time more sticks, the 3rd and 4th and 5th time, it's like you've been doing it a while and you don't even think twice. So especially with video, shoot the video. If you think that you need your makeup done and your hair done and you need some look and professionalism, you are really, really wrong. If it was at a Berkshire conference a couple years ago, 2 years ago, I think. If you see a really, really polished, smooth background, you see someone from knees to head and they're talking and they're delivering you a presentation in an ad on social media or a commercial on TV, and you see this that's just, it is on point. It's got a little background music, and then you see somebody and they're promoting a restaurant, okay? And then you see somebody pull their phone out and go, dudes, you have got to check out this restaurant, and they show you a thing, and they go, look what I just ordered. Which one do you trust more? The polished one, yeah, it's polished. It's beautiful. And we see it as being sold on us. The other one's more relatable. So if you just got out of the gym and you have a reason to post a video, or you have a client that texts you, take the opportunity to send them a video text back and make it humorous, make it funny, and make it relatable, and apologize for your appearance. That's going to go so much further than not doing the video. And it's going to go so much further than sending a text, even voice. That video and that person connection, they want to see that. They start to like you more, know you more, trust you more, just because of that relatability.
Megan, you and
Amen.
Lori have just a lot of notes here. So give me a couple other things on there that are some takeaways that you can share with everybody. Yeah, well, his are little. He wrote a lot of stuff. It's just really little.
I think video text is so important. So send a video for happy birthday, send a video for home anniversary, send a video text for literally anything that you can think of. I've been doing that lately, and I've gotten way more response out of that than just a single text that says happy birthday. Like, people don't even respond. But if I send a video text, they're like, oh, hey, how are you? Like, nice to see your face, you know? So just like little things like that. And then 2 other things is I'm going to create like a 43 things we do for free flyer. So for like listings, you know, about creating value and that kind of stuff. And it's just a list of like, here are all the things we do that is complimentary to you. And then the last thing is, what are you doing to get another closing from a current closing, and how are you creating opportunities? So if you have a listing or a buyer, you know, what are you doing to get another client and another closing out of those things? Is it just listed, just sold? Is it asking for a referral? What are the systems that you're going to create and the opportunities that you're going to create from each closing that you have?
One thing they talked about at closing is get your client like a QR. They were logging the QR code, and they could give you their review right then when you're at the closing table, and if there's a break.
Reviews still matter.
Yeah, and get that, because Google, the Google page, that's another thing I need to look in. Yeah, so they said get 100 posts right away on that with reviews. And then one big thing that I'm sure a lot of you know, Fred here is such a resource to us, and Megan and I went to his class, but he talked about, you know, being a wealth advisor. And I think that goes back to what else can we do with our clients? You know, if maybe they're in their house for 20 years, but let's be a wealth advisor to them. And is there another opportunity for them or their family? And talking about, you know, they all want to know about like cash flow and all that. And he talked about, it's not about cash flow. It's about what the value is of the property. So kind of changing our mindset on some of that. And he's just such a big resource that we are lucky to have here.
Any questions out there? Who else attended? Was there a takeaway that someone's not said that you want to? Can I borrow this? Jay, do you have something that stuck out to you?
Well, an easy one was Matt from Las Vegas mentioned that most people don't utilize the tools that are given to us by home services. So like the newsletter e-cards that are there that he sends out to people, they're free. So, and we have a pre-written newsletter, or you can create your own. There was a lot of, I think it was, forget her name.
To that point, a number of people talked about using AdWorks. A lot of people talked about using AdWorks. I was surprised how many people talked about that, and some about HomeBot, but AdWorks I felt like was mentioned quite often.
Especially the Sphere campaign.
Yes.
Making sure that's done. QR codes, and we do on our ambagentTools.com site. I have a link on how to do a QR code for HomeBot, and then it takes you to like QR code monkey or something that you can create any QR code you want. So there's directions that we have on our training site. And then there was some apps that they had, like, so if you wanted to send out like a quick gift basket or something, it was called like Thanks, but without the A. Let's see here, THNKS. But yeah, you click on it, and for under $30, if you just want to go thank you, do a thank you for anybody, it'll send it. You can do a handwritten note with it and send it off, which I thought was pretty cool.
And then Maria, I don't know if you have anything. No. I'm sitting outside the glass for a reason. I think it was Molly who talked. A couple of people talked about client appreciation parties with pets, and Molly talked about pictures in the park, and that Yeah, and that the pictures, I love the pictures in the park for your pets, is she would do it, and then people would walk out that were not even invited. And they're like, well, how do we get a picture? And she's like, just give me your email address, and we'll take a picture and we'll send it to you. So then she started adding people to her database, and then the QR codes, people were using QR codes to get people to, I'm trying to get their data also. I'm trying to remember how they did that, but Chuck did a good job on that. There was something else that Heidi said, and I cannot remember to save my soul what she said that stood out in my mind. Heather, do you have anything?
I didn't read my notes, but you just kind of touched on the one that I like, the pet one, because everyone loves their pets, so I think that's a good way to get.
Give that to her. So yes,
Fine.
that's
We
okay.
already spoke about it, but the pet one I thought was a really great idea. And a lot of people there also thought the pie was a really stupid idea until they did it. And so after they did the pie, pop pie, everyone loved it, their clients loved it, and everyone's really implemented that into their systems.
Perfect. Any questions, guys? Anything you want us to expand upon up here? All right, Megan, top takeaway. What's your last thought you want these guys to think about as we wrap this thing up here?
Create a routine, and find balance.
I'd say tap into the agents that are in this building. We have people on our team that get together with other agents and other team leads all the time. Got together with you just to learn from the amount that I learned from Tasha Moss, Megan, and Adam Briley in this. It's incredible. So you have people that you can call, text, and say, "Hey, can I buy you coffee? Hey, I just want to pick your brain. I don't know what I don't know." Use those words. They'll hang and they'll help and talk, and everybody's in different seasons and places, and they'll be able to help you just incredibly. They literally just helped agents all over the nation. So, oh, that's
And
true
you both
too.
learned something.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
true. That's true. Yeah, every time I've ever got together with anybody, whether they asked me or I asked them, yeah, both of us come out of it every single time. Yep.
Ryan.
I think for me, it was like going back and even looking at our systems that we do have in place, right? And just reevaluating and going back through and saying, okay, like, so for a buyer, what's that look like? What's our system for that? For a seller, what's that look like? Like for a lead that comes in, what's that look like? What's it look like? And I think just breaking down again, just the systems and seeing, okay, is there something else that I can implement here or there to redefine what that looks like? And kind of like Lori was talking about, is like providing that value, right? So it's, how do I look different or provide a value than my competition? So when I go into that listing appointment, or when I go in and meet with a buyer and they're like, well, we're interviewing other buyers, just so you know, or other buyers agents or other sellers agents, just so you know, like, what's going to make me stand out and be different?
Can I go to freaking Louisville also? Like, we have a Berkshire conference coming up, and every single person that just went to this, there's no way they're not going to sell at least one more house just from having gone and what they just got. I mean, one. So they spent $350 and they are going to go ahead and take your average commission check and put it in your head. I mean, that's a good ROI. So do the same thing with Louisville. Like,
How many people are signed up for that so far at the convention? 40, not many, because last year we had 125 and we didn't have a convention.
Strong push is coming out
Yeah,
here.
all right, good.
there's a start. There you go.
There you are. Thank you for pushing. Lori.
For real.
I think just the personal touches, making sure our process is in place, and I don't, like Ryan said, I don't want the client calling me saying, hey, I haven't heard from you in a week, what's going on with our closing? Because I know it's fine, but they don't. And I think it used to be, on Mondays, maybe that's your call to every pending or every listing, to make, even if you don't have anything to say, just to touch base.
Yeah, what my theory is never really changed, is that I think Monday should not be a prospecting day. Monday should be a follow-up day. Follow up with your sellers, not that we have a lot of those today. Follow up with your buyers, right? If you had open houses, Monday should be a day to follow up and make sure that everything you're working on is up to date. And also Monday should be a day to plan. What are the prospecting, business growth, revenue generating activities I'm going to do the balance of the week, which should be my business growth prospecting days. Thank you, Lori.
Kind of touch the same thing Trevor did. Continue to share. Like, that's been amazing theme even here at Berkshire. It's so easy to reach out to somebody and ask a question, and you do always get something from it too. I say continue being creative, because what you do today may not work tomorrow.
And that was one last theme that I heard, is we talked a lot about, we've got to continue to be changing and modifying what we're doing, or we're not, because the world is changing. You talk about Google. Google is supposedly going to come into the space to compete against Zillow. So, I mean, getting those reviews, continue to change, continue to do what you're doing and tweak it on a regular basis, and you're going to end up ahead. So, guys, we're out of time. Did you guys get something out of this? Please, 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 as we get those videos out here at the end of this week or next week, take some time, sit down and look at those. I promise you're going to take some things out of those panels and Mark Stark and those breakout sessions we had that will help you go back and implement something into your business. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for showing up here today.